Okay, one thing that we have a little bit of a drama about is the KKK. Now, I was completely unaware about what the stuff was going on. Apparently, I'm what they call a scapegoat. Piecing it together, it's kind of like a big shit show. But when you deal with a whole bunch of men, especially black men, talking about the Klan, they talk about harassing the Klan online and talk about these conversations, and then you watch the Black Klansman movie, and you remember back to being about 2 or 3 years old, and this man going on and on about how we're going to flood the earth because white women are evil, they're not submissive enough, and they're even, like bull crap. And I was a kid, it was like, you lie! Or whatever. I have a little bit of lisp. It's because of a slight bit of brain damage. I've had a brain scan. My pupils are unequal, but that is not harmful. It's just idiopathic. So I don't have brain tumor. I don't have an aneurysm or anything like that going on. But if you go all the way back to what I was dealing with as a kid, then one of the things they used to talk about all the time is, you're not Sigyn. We hate Sigyn. We hate Victoria's woman. The Klux part apparently comes from Denmark. And the Lamb family, I have Morgans in my family, but the Lamb family fought on one side of the Civil War, and you can read it. You can actually watch a video about a elderly man saying, "Yeah, in the Civil War we fought the Dutch, and General Lamb got off his horse and started throwing rocks at people, and Morgan turned around and shot him with a horse pistol." If you know more about what's really going on, that thing that the "Don't Tread on Me," that's actually a racial reference. Okay, so when people Photoshop my eyes differently, when people do all these different types of things, what they're effectively doing is racial discrimination, racial racism, and also crying wolf, to be perfectly honest. Haha. Now, when you look at Denmark's had a very interesting relationship with Loki. Loki is not the god of harmful chaos. He's the god of the... Yeah, you can get a prank worth Loki and you don't want to do that. I'm on a moratorium right now. But they're not. And they need to be, okay? But it's the ghost within the system, effectively, that stops harmful stagnation. So it's the thing that unfreezes the engine when you're that angry. You turn on the engine, next thing you know, it's working again, and you get to drive all going, ha ha. That kind of thing is Loki, okay? But it's also mischief. It's also civil disobedience is very Loki. Yeah, he can be a little shit. We all know that, okay? But the Danes have been working with different entities. Now, if you're Dutch or whatever from Europe, this may not work for you because people who self-identify this way in the United States are not necessarily taking orders from your people, but there are people who seem to be doing both, okay? So, family bullying law, I hear y'all have one. You might want to go ahead and do a lot of documentation. I also know that there was a young woman who was put to death effectively through euthanasia, and that old joke that people keep telling, because she'd been raped. Now, I've been savaged, and I'm telling you that I don't need to die. I'm not depressed. Depression is not a death sentence, okay? But, anyway, the one thing that they absolutely hate... Hold on one second. Archie, I'm doing a video, sweetie. Take that to the room. Not to slut shame my dog, but Anyway, so one thing I kept hearing over and over as a kid, before I even knew what was going on, even slightly, about scapegoating or anything, is how much they hate Sigyn. You're not Sigyn. You're not a victorious woman. Even to the point of like putting warfarin in my system and abusing me and trying to get me to die on a horse. And I'm just like, haha, I get to ride horses today, I don't even know how to describe this whole thing because Twilight sedation doesn't allow you to actually know what's going on most of it. But nobody wants to be vanned and given rough sex and then have people think you're starstruck. because their boyfriend or whatever put their shirt and your luggage and stuff. Eventually you just look at the situation and go, these are toxic worldviews and stuff, but it's coming from something that's making people toxic. People don't just out of the blue become toxic. But there are also people like me who have had every opportunity to become toxic, who have decided not to be. And those people should be rewarded. And when we keep going ahead and defending ourselves, when we talk about why we like that Adam Calhoun song, because it's talking about Franklin's, and it's talking about how the Swedish government uses the N-word on white people and people who represent the Swedish government. If this isn't you, Sweden, you got some people over here calling you bad things, okay? But you also have people representing you in a very poor way. So Europe, if this is total shock to you, there are people over here and it gets sued. If this is not total shock to you, Interpol, hello, I need someone to volunteer, okay? But one of the things they really hate about Sigyn is that she broke up with Loki and then went down to the abusive prison to go ahead and take care of him. It reminds them of adrenochrome because you're dealing with blood into a bowl. It also reminds them of all kinds of, why do you put yourself out for other people? That doesn't compute when you're being very, very toxic, because when you're being very, very toxic, you're thinking of how to go ahead and be more toxic. Like the prank war. You're thinking of how to bust each other. After a while, you go ahead and realize that to a certain extent, everybody does have noblesse oblige, and that's the way life works. And if life doesn't work very well, you kind of need to shut up and take a back seat to the people who do that work. The other day, I went to the ocean, okay? So, you just go to the closest place. Love Charleston. She's my lover. But, anyway, I go to Charleston, and I have dogs with this really bad fungus, and it's not responding to Diflucan, it's not responding to Meconazole, it's not responding to, anything. You can yell tough acted and act all you want, but if it's not working on your dog, you get kind of upset. So someone told me that their friend or whatever came back from Vietnam and had this really, really bad foot funk that was exactly the same, and that the only place it got away, they got rid of it, was swimming at Isle of Palms. So sometimes you get so desperate, you're like, it's an 8-hour trip, I'll go ahead and do that. And since I have an ex who is not so trustworthy to be even on the same street with at this point, then I love the evening and stuff. I need to do some meditation work and stuff. So I just go, okay, let's go to Isle of Palms. So I head out there, and it's jellyfish season. But I go ahead and get out there, and I encountered something funny. It's on my Facebook profile, but whatever. But I didn't realize what it was until I was driving home. I still need to know the whole story. But I am telling you that one of the things that was funny is I'm sitting there and, you're toning with the ocean, you're there doing spirit work, you're there watching weird clouds in the sky, you're doing all this different type of stuff, getting your dogs healthy and stuff. And someone walks by. I thought they were a former coworker of mine, and I was like, oh, is that Franny? No, okay. That kind of thing. That gets back to the grapevine that I'm obsessed with somebody. They walk through my office, apparently, and I'm obsessed with them. When you know the backstory, it's like, who did that to whom? Okay? So, look at that girl. She's a ham. She wants her 15 minutes. But when you're dealing with this kind of bullcrap, then, eventually you start seeing how damaged and hurt people are. And people wonder why you stick your neck out for them, and it says a lot when you are saying, I'm not sticking my neck out for people, I'm just saying this is bullcrap, and no one's having a good day, and then you do a little bit more research, and you realize this stuff's going all the way back to the settlement in North America, and yes, there were a lot of white people here, and they don't want to talk about it. Every single time they go ahead and actually do they remove bones. If it's not a white person, they'll go ahead and talk about it. If it is a white person, they talk about being too sacred to test. Notice that. But what is white anyway, So, when you get all this hate over this Loki and Sigyn situation, it all comes back to the person who sticks toes in people's mouths. It all comes back to the people who go around popping one kid's ear and stuff and talk about being a tall poppy and then talk about how he doesn't like my knees and stuff like this. I don't give a rat's ass. But when only thing I can go ahead and find in Nevada as far as a man whore is that same guy or his friends, and they're big, how do you think big people get made? How do you think talented young men get made? Yeah, you want somebody with my DNA, okay? And that's why kids are coming out and not making anything into the adrenochrome balls. Now you can make the same stuff out of a bush. I got banned from Facebook for 3 days because I said cracker ass cracker on a post about Yale. I'm constantly having people making duck sauce jokes. Constantly having people effectively refuse to go ahead and actually treat me in medicine properly, and then they get mad that I treat myself. So this is kind of a long rambling thing to go ahead and say, we need to take care of something that's going on. And one of those things that's going on is I'm 33 years old, and I have traced it back to where every single date I've ever had has been overshadowed and or ruined by a psychopathic group of people who want to fuck me so bad they do so in their sleep. Okay? But they also are so psychotic they'll go ahead and drug people and do it too. I'm like, really? What is so interesting about me? And then I go ahead and do a drag performance. When you're given the Rogaine treatment, sometimes you have a little facial hair. And when you have a little facial hair, sometimes you grow it out a little so you can wax it before and report at an event. And when you're a performer, sometimes you go ahead and go to your bread and butter licensed performance jobs with that more casual look. And when you have someone look at your facial hair, sometimes you say, yes, I get to walk around in drag all the time. And make a joke about a bow queen and stuff like this when you really are telling the truth too, because that is jaguar, it's people are flirting, we get, there's that give and take and stuff. So, and you notice I do have the old Dixie pronunciations, not the French pronunciations for France. But when you go ahead and break the fourth wall, but you're also doing psychic work, and if you don't believe me, that's actually a standard thing that they work on in the government, military and stuff. So, yeah, there are legitimate psychics because we actually fund it with our tax money and it actually pans out, okay? But when you deal with that kind of stuff over and over and over again, and you're breaking the fourth wall and you're constantly being not just good to people in the face of hearing that no white person can ever be good to person because they're all evil, but you're also being proactively self-respecting to go ahead and tell the stories about the white natives and things that you know and all these things. It's not racism to talk about white people disappearing. You hear that, people? It's not racism to talk about that. It's not racism to go ahead and actually talk about, the Adam Calhoun song, for instance. You get, what about black folk? That is not just talking about people who check the black box on these, census chart. It is also talking about black people from Spy versus Spy type of thing, okay? That whole thing could be just 100% talking about people of a pale complexion, okay? And the fact that people can't get that through their head and go, oh, it's just so racist, I'm scared for my life. No. And by the way, coon is actually an old tribal name from back in the day around Georgia and North Carolina and Alabama. Okay? So when you go ahead and talk about these old serious situations, someone who is quote unquote woke is going to go ahead and respectfully listen. They're going to respectfully listen, not because they give a damn so much like jungle fever type of situation for me. I don't want that. But because it's also part of protecting yourself to listen to everybody's story about oppression. If anybody comes up to me and tells me, knock, knock, who's their oppression, I say, let's talk about it, okay? Let's hear about it. Let's find out what's going on. Let's talk about what's happening. When I'm having people walking through my house with glowing crosses on and stuff like this, you know, it sounds like bullshit. And then you realize the FBI studies it. For the FBI, Louie, there's actually a lot of information about that. So I'm working on the same shit as you are. The ones that are actually real. So I watched a stand-up video. And Mr. Johnson, I think, was doing a stand-up video about how he used to troll the Klan. And he's brown. And eventually he goes and hangs out with them because they have really good ribs. And his cousin has Klan ribs in the house. And I grew up on a street with a guy who was really proud of his ribs. I think he may be KKK, whatever. And you go back to that situation about, let's flood the earth. Let's go ahead and kill white women because they're not submissive or whatever. And you realize I've been so damn submissive that people thought I didn't even respect myself and are complaining about it behind people's backs. I don't think it's a racial hate organization. I think they use race hate to go ahead and cover the fact that they're misogynistic terrorists. And their white knighting of people is so patently obnoxious that it's like you can't even go ahead and start appreciating engineering without having people think that you're a psychopath trying to kill her relationship with her husband times 15 different people. And what am I supposed to do? I had one of the highest BSEP scores on the whole area. I had a really high SAT score. The LSAT's not been hard for me. Eventually you just have to go ahead and say it. I hate women, and I don't know why they hate me. And I also don't know why they hate my knees. There's no reason to hate my knees. My knees do not bother you. If you do not need to go ahead and look at my knees, you do not need to look at my knees. They say they don't hold up. Okay? How come you have big ones? Okay? The person I'm talking about has big honking knees. But the second thing is also, that's not structurally weaker. You've been in quality management. I'm blowing the whistle. We have a problem on the shop floor. And that is a stinking attitude from management that should not even be managing me. So, two things I can take from this. Number one, we need to do a better job of feeding the people so that way they talk about our ribs instead of theirs. Second thing, we need to go ahead and actually get to the bottom of what is actually occurring with hate on Anglo-Saxon people that I think has been covered up through a well-known, old-school, heathen, and Catholic abuse system that is a minority string of that has co-opted that belief for everybody. And there's a reason why they're erasing Odin with Odinism. The Odin I know does not want people to go ahead and complain about people being gay, does not want people to go ahead and complain about women having sex with other men. That's specifically attested. And not by a Holy Roller Christian who has a problem because he would not have attested that from the Roman perspective at that time. Even though Rome before that would have. It's disappointing that people are falling for this crap. But it's even more disappointing when I can't go on a date without those people getting murdered. I am so incredibly tired of having either white knights want to take me through the drive-thru, give me a bag of food, and just go, fuck it. Or act like they married me and really believe people hamstering this hate that I specifically made fun of because I'm sick of it. I have never hurt a single person. But I've also been lied on so many times I make fun of the rumors. That is a normal thing for a stand-up comedian or a person who is performing to do. As a normal thing to take down in a drag tour is, I'm sick of bad rumors. And just because I happen to be serving fish does not mean that I'm less trustworthy. Just because I happen to have this skin tone instead of that other pale skin tone or a brown skin tone does not mean that I'm less trustworthy. The fact to have large legs does not mean that I'm subservient and listless and sitting on the side and doing that kind of stuff. No, I'm out doing what I do, okay? And like, oh, why don't you date? Well, first of all, a psychopath might kill you, and I've warned people about that. And the second thing is, I don't want to go ahead and get in this system where people think you either have to be a prostitute or not fuck at all. And the third thing about it is there's been a big dearth of people who have not been poisoned about me by this group, possibly called Tower, possibly called a whole bunch of other things that my dad and stuff hang out with. Okay? So, yeah, I'm thirsty, but I'm also very aware of the scam that's going on, even though I don't know what it is. So, watching it from this side, I know there's probably going to be a lot more people, and I'm on no vlog list, but there's going to be someone who sees it. YouTube, law enforcement, something is going to go ahead and say, yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat too. No, I've never done these things, yet a lot of those things would not be harmful if I had done them. And there's another thing too. A lot of these things are things y'all do that I haven't done. So calling it out's not a problem. But honestly, it's gotten to the point where, you know, you do your own thing, but you do suddenly look at people and say, you know, you need to step it up. And you need to step it up outside of your little gang groups. Okay. I went to school partially I took business organizational leadership, and I did a lot of stuff with liberal arts, rhetoric, you know, things like that, and stuff. I was pretty well driven. Studied the European Union, stuff like this, for a reason, and that reason was to go ahead and actually untangle what happened to America. You know, America really does do better when we have a lot of time off, we have high wages, and we don't thieve and be crappy to one another. And that's been proven the world over. Yet it seems so horrifying to people who believe in that old cheap slavery bargain type of stuff. And so people get in gangs and they'll hamster hurt over themselves and, yeah, my third great grandfather had, while they're doing that to a young woman. You know, I'm sorry about your great grandfather. Really. Like, to the point I studied about it, marched about it, talked about it, walked about it, had double pneumonia talking about it, trying to go ahead and untangle it. But you doing that crap to me does not make that better, nor does it actually make common sense. Okay? And when you're fighting those prescriptions they put in your body, you know, you're quite angry, and your body reacts like it. And then to have the Photoshop situation with the eyes is just... I mean, the guy broke into my Facebook account, pulled down my Facebook, wrote NIG on a pupil that he edited, and then re-uploaded it. Swedish people have a homophone that is that word for acting like that. He's being a damn Yankee. Okay? I mean, what fucking difference does it make to anybody if my eyes glow or not? Okay? So, yes, I'm pissed off. Yes, I'm angry, but I'm completely controlled about it. And I'm tired of people acting like the only way you can be angry is this performative, out-of-control behavior. Sometimes the way you get angry is just by simply saying, yeah, okay, document that, and go do something totally different. And the something different that we all need to do is get back to actually understanding our history, understanding our civics, understanding why we need to go ahead and preserve what we love, understanding that people making fun of things while serving fish is no longer as terrifying as you thought because your crazy mother told you lies about women or whatever, but rather as just someone saying, hey, tired of being the scapegoat, okay? And honestly, the very world that we love to go to, go on vacation, oh, I like this place, people treat me like I'm not a celebrity and stuff, that ends when you start acting like a dick. And then you think that people are starstruck. No, we're saying you're being a dick, okay? So when I say, hey, knock, knock, who's there? I want my freaking tennis racket back. What difference is it to you? What difference is it to you if I ride horses? I don't get it. And they think of all these horrible things like, oh, she's getting sexual pleasure off of it. First of all, maybe it's anatomically, I just don't, okay? Yeah, it looks like we're humping the horse a little bit when you're on horseback, but that's because you move your hips properly. But what's it to you if I did, okay? But second of all, I'm one of those women that never like humped a teddy bear or something because I just don't, that's not how I receive sexual pleasure. I'm not going to tell you what I did, but, the different stories for different folks. But to constantly do that and act like women are so weak that their wombs will shake out. You're no longer in power the minute you bring that up. And you cannot go ahead and take evidence to the contrary. Sit on it. Go away. And when I can't just go ahead and have a normal job without people throwing shit at me or conchoing me or people thinking me talking about conchoing people because I'm sick of it, to a fellow performer who is also sick of fans. It turns out to be that toad guy again and people's bodies. Let my people go, But also, I'm not saying my people because I own them. I'm not happy with it. But I'm not just not happy with it. I'm not happy with all you sheep just sitting around going, get to know people. You talk about me having this big wall. Alice. Talk about me having this big wall up between people. I don't have a wall up. I'm simply having a good day, expressing myself, say, hey, this is what I'm doing today. People go, and then they make up a big story or explain back exactly what I said I was doing as advice. And I go, well, I was doing that, but you kind of, blackball me. Now, one of my favorite movies is Millie. And a lot of people want to make it about Princess Diana. No, wow, okay, there's a song about you. You're so vain, But the deal with that situation is she and her dad are sitting at the table, and her dad's not paying attention, and he says, how are you doing? And she goes, oh, I don't know, I smoked crack, had 3 abortions, and did a whole bunch of other shit. And he goes, that's nice. That type of humor is not a confession of behavior. Please understand why women say that. We are so sick of having this open life, open door, talking to people about everything, and having people talk about stonewalling us. There's another definition in the South. And that's galloping in, jumping over a barrier, and having people shoot you because they think you're a damn Yankee because they secretly are themselves. And I'm tired of being compared to Stonewall with every single goddamn fucking thing you say. So think about that. And let's move forward.